Hello, everyone. This is Meenakshi Narula, founder and CEO at Mentoring the Mentors, an institute that accelerates your learning curve, a platform, a channel where, my dear teacher friends, you will be able to know about the latest pedagogical skills, how to bring that kind of excitement and engagement in the classes so that the children, they will look forward to your classes. So today we're going to talk about graphic organizers. I have already shared with you 3 videos on graphic organizers. And today we're going to talk about 50 more different types of graphic organizers that you can use in your classrooms for formative assessments. No need to say anything about formative assessments. You know very well that formative assessments or maybe assessment for learning is an integral part of evaluation of our pedagogy, of our flow of the lesson in the classes, right? That prepares the students for the summative exams, that even just makes us understand where are our students lagging. We will be able to guide them so that they'll be able to progress step by step and they'll be able to reach towards their goal. So without further ado, let's begin with today's graphic organizers. To start with, the first graphic organizer that we're going to talk about today is 3-2-1 strategy. This we have already talked about in maybe some of the previous videos as well. This graphic organizer, in that, see, you will be able to create different versions of this strategy, this graphic organizers based on your requirement. As you can see on the screen, it's written 3 things you found out, 2 interesting things, and 1 question you still have. So likewise, you will be able to ask your students, like maybe in today's discussion, what 3 things you have learned, they'll be able to mention, and 2 of the things, the concepts that you found really very interesting, and 1 question you still have, or maybe here 1 question you can just tweak it. For this, you may ask your students, like the topics that we have discussed today, out of those 3 topics that you remember that you have learned, 2 were interesting, and what is the 1 thing that you are really going to implement it from today onwards, from day 1. So this is how you will be able to tweak as per your requirements. This can be used as an exit ticket activity as well in the classes. And let's move on to the next graphic organizer. This is 3-2-1 countdown, right? This is a true test of the relevant and meaningful learning. What is to be done? 3 things you didn't know before. You ask your children like 3 things that you didn't know before, that you have just gathered, that you have just got to know after this lesson, after this interaction. 2 things that surprised you about the topic. I mean, you are really wondering about those particular points, and 1 thing that you want to start doing with what you have learned, that you are going to implement. So this is how you will be able to conduct another kind of graphic organizer in your class as formative assessment. Now moving ahead further, 1-minute papers. 1-minute papers, we also term it as jam, just a minute papers. These are usually given at the end of the day, end of the class, right, end of your lecture. So students, either they can work individually or they can work in pairs, and they have to give answers in brief, right? Typically, some of the questions that are being raised by the teachers, they include main point. We may ask the children to give the main points that you have learned today, and maybe you just give most surprising concept, questions that have not been answered. I mean, some of the children, they had some questions in the mind related to the topic that the teacher was about to discuss, and those questions will remain unanswered. So that can also be mentioned. Most confusing area of the topic, and what question from the topic might appear on the next test. Now, these kind of questions, or maybe you can give your own questions. This is 1-minute paper. So keep in mind, just keep your questions limited, either 1 or 2, because you are just giving 1 minute. So I suppose you have to select only 1 question, and next time when you will be giving jam sheet, just a minute sheet, you will be able to give different kind of question, bring variety in your questions, right? Just give 1 question for 1 minute. So moving further, this is a round robin charts. Now this strategy involves passing charts among groups to assess understanding. Each group of 4 to 5 students, they begin with the chart and some markers. The group records an answer to an open-ended question. You being a teacher, you will pose an open-ended question in the class. The group of students, they will be answering that question. They can share the knowledge they have on a topic covered in the class. Once the students they finish writing, they will be passing on the chart paper, the A4 size sheet, the A3 size sheet, whatever you start with, to the next group. So each and every group, they will be adding on their points, their ideas related to that open-ended question. So that becomes a round robin chart, right? In which students are not moving from one station to another, but the chart is being passed on from one group to another. So likewise, you will be able to get, like, for example, you have either posed one question, or maybe you can pose the number of questions that are equal to the number of groups, so that other students, they should not sit idle. They should also start working on the question that is given to them, and they'll be passing on to other groups. For passing on, you can either set a time limit or you can use a bell in the class, right? That's up to you. Now, move on to the next one. 3-column notes. You may give that kind of chart, that kind of graphic organizer to your students, where students will be able to write the question, the answer, and with the help of examples, pictures, or maybe symbols, they will be able to explain that. So this is another form. So here this can be done for word meanings as well, right? For synonyms as well. I mean, you can just tweak it as per your requirement. 5W and H model, this I have already discussed in my previous videos too. Here in that case, you maybe ask your students to write about 5 Ws, 1 H, and the summary statement as well. Who, what, when, where, why, how, of a particular topic or a chapter that you have discussed, and they'll be giving the summary statement too. So it means this gives, you see, students a base on which they have to think, they have to write about a particular topic or a particular concept. Now, if I move ahead, this is, I have removed here H, that is how part, the who, what, when, where, why, and the summary is given. So I have deleted how part. It is 5W model. In case your children are small and you want to do it as per the time limit, you can give it as 5W as well. And you can give freedom to your students as per the age group. Either they can write only words or the phrases or the statements or the paragraphs, depending upon the age group of the students. Now, 5W chart, the same, and another format I have shared with you. If you want, you can take a snapshot as well, and you can use the same in your class. This is same 5Ws. And then ABC organizer, you may ask your students to summarize, to organize the information gathered in the class through the lecture, through the interaction, by watching a video, by reading a text in the form of ABC organizer. They'll be able to write either sentences or maybe just phrases or maybe the punch words or the punch phrases, right? So now next is ABC brainstorm. This is another format. This is also like ABC organizer. You can take a snapshot. You will be able to give it to your students in that form, so that they'll be able to arrange the information that they have gathered, that they have learned in this format. Now, next is analyzing perspectives. As you see, children, they grow to the higher classes, the higher grades, we will be able to give them different kinds of graphic organizer. And this graphic organizer comprises of higher order thinking skills. The children, they are talking about the issues, and then they are writing about either the personal perspective about the issue being discussed, or maybe the character's perspective on that particular issue. They'll be giving reason in the logic, and they have to give the different perspective as well. Maybe what other different perspective they are thinking about for that, they can discuss with the peer as well. If you are assigning the same as a homework, they can talk to the parent, they can talk to the friends or maybe the neighborhood, and then they can gather their perspective on that particular issue, give the reasons, and then conclude accordingly. Like, this is my perspective, my personal perspective, this is the character's perspective, this is my friend or maybe other person's perspective. So what are they concluding based on their data collection, based on their observation? So these are all higher order thinking skills. These enhance students' critical thinking skills that we want. As per competency-based education also, we have to work on various kinds of competencies. See, when the children, they will be working in a group, that enhances collaboration. When they are talking to others, when they're asking about their perspective, that enhances their communication. And you see that works on their persuasive skills as well. They persuade others, they convince others, like, this is my perspective and this is right, right? And then they gather, then they analyze the information, and accordingly their higher order thinking skills are developed. Moving ahead, so this is anticipation or the reaction guide. Sometimes we just want to analyze whether children, they are able to just check, map what they have learned, what they were thinking earlier before the class. For example, any topic that you have discussed in the class, maybe children, they were having some kind of preconceived notions or some kind of taboos, some kind of knowledge that they have received from the environment, from their, you see, culture, and they must be thinking like that. And after you deliver the lecture, after that, their thinking, it changes, right? So maybe related to any topic, it can be any topic related to society, it can be any general topic that you are taking, it can be any science topic as well. For example, the student might be thinking something else related to, suppose, a simple topic, water cycle. You give some questions to the students, and then they will be giving the responses before the lesson, right? And then after your lesson gets over, then the students, they have to give the answers. Maybe after your lesson, again, I'm saying, maybe after watching a particular video, listening to a particular podcast or audio, or maybe any kind of discussion, debate going on, and after that, they have to give their answer. So they have to see how their thinking changes. So they should be receptive to accepting the different kinds of answers if that they are receiving, and they should be ready to change their answers, right? So now moving ahead, this is another one. See, agree and disagree. This here is a use an image or a picture for the students to observe in this column. Either we will be writing a few sentences, statements we will be giving, or we can just show some pictures and we can ask the students whether they agree or they disagree with those statements, and they have to give the reason as well. If they agree, then also they have to start the reason. If they disagree, then also they have to give the reason for that. Now, anticipation guide, this is another format in which you will be able to give the same to your students. You can design it accordingly. You see, let me tell you, our little children, they want variety. Every time when we give them boring squares or another kind of format, they also, you see, do not look forward to that. Okay, just change the shape, bring a variety. Suppose you are talking about leaves and all, so for that you would like to ask questions related to the functions of the leaf, and here you are giving some statements. You can give it in that format. You see, at least till primary classes, we can give that kind of catchy worksheets to our students, and then ask your students whether they agree with the statement or they disagree, and they have to state the reason as well. Now, moving ahead, cause and effect. Cause and effect, the children, they should be able to cite the causes of a particular effect, okay? Or maybe from the causes, they should be able to generalize, like what effects can be there because of these kinds of causes. So this is cause and effect, a graphic organizer. This is character map. Like, you can share it with your students. They will be able to make a character map, character sketch. You say, in our English and our Hindi languages, when we are teaching our students English and the literature, they read the chapter and they have to write the character sketch. They have to write the character's name, and this they have to list the qualities. They have to give the examples. Either it is in the form of sentence that they have observed, that they have read while reading the chapter, or otherwise. Right? So they can just make it according to the number of the qualities that they have observed, right? Now, Let's go ahead. Classifying and categorizing. Categorizing, you see number of instances are there when we ask our students to categorize. Maybe they are categorizing simplified or maybe non-simplified equation. They are categorizing biodegradable, non-biodegradable resources. They are categorizing maybe whatever they are doing, soluble, insoluble substances. Okay. Good conductors, bad conductors, depending upon that, number of topics are there. So for that, you will be able to use different kinds of graphic organizers. Now, this is compare, contrast with summary. In a Venn diagram that is also being used in the classes, where we ask our students to write the points for two particular topics that we are discussing. They have to write the topics, the points that are of comparison, that are similar as well. So this is another format in which children will be able to list over here how these two concepts are alike and how these two concepts are different with regard to what. So they have to mention the parameters as well here in the place given, and they have to summarize as well, right? And then concept definition map. So this concept definition map, in the center, the children, they have to write the word, and then they have to write the definition. They have to write what is it like, what are some examples. What is it like means it's like, it's nearby similarity, is similar to what, and then you have to give the examples, right? So you can also do one thing. You can give the students one particular word, and then they'll be writing the definition or the meaning. Then they will be able to write different synonyms for that. They'll be giving you some example sentences as well, where that word is used. So you can tweak it as per your requirement. And the next is a word chart, context, connections. Here the word is given and the page number is given. Sentence where I found the word. This word reminds me of what? And the picture of the word. See, let me tell you, when we ask our students, like read 2-3 pages at home and you have to find the words. So see, in this format, if we ask our students, you have to find at least 5-10 words by reading the text, the new words. Then the students, they will be writing the word. They have to write the page number too. Means certainly they have read it, they have found it, and they have mentioned the page number where they have found it. They have to mention the sentence also in which they have just found that particular word. They have to highlight as well. And the word reminds me of what? I mean, the child is able to relate the same with the real life. And then they have to draw the picture or maybe symbol of that particular word, right? I mean, if it is a noun, they'll be able to draw it. If it's a feeling, even then they'll be able to draw something related to it, right? So see, in one of my previous videos, I have already talked about vocabulary building strategies, where I discussed with you some kind of, you see, images or calligrams where children will be able to draw. Watch those videos, you will be able to get to know. Now, constructing support. When they have to write a position statement, they have to state the reasons based on certain kinds of facts. They should know, they have to collect the facts, they have to state the reasons for a particular statement that they have raised. Now, cyclic graphic organizer, we have been doing it earlier as well in many of the topics, chapters, to show the cycle. Maybe it is a water cycle we are talking about in nature, maybe anything, we are talking flow of energy, we are talking about food web, we are talking about, I mean, we have to draw some kind of mind map, some kind of web, some kind of cycles. So wherever its cycle comes, then we have to draw this kind of shapes. You can use it accordingly, but you ask your students to write the summary as well, right? And now deductive reasoning graphic organizer, this I have shared in my previous videos as well. You may ask your students to come to the final conclusion from the predictions. They are writing the details of the proofs, they are predicting something, and then after collecting those predictions, they will be coming to the final prediction. And then descriptive organizer, or the main idea Here, what is to be done? Topic is listed, details are given, and the main idea of the sentence is to be done, right? Topic, any kinds of details related to the topic, and the main idea. Now, moving ahead, error analysis. Now, they have students, they have to write the information, they have to write about the possible errors or the clarification of reasoning, and then consider solution or the consequence, and then new or the revised information. Give students some kind of text which has some errors in the form of facts, in the form of figures, in the form of spellings, in the form of grammatical errors, and then they have to list the possible errors from there, and they have to mention the solution, and then they have to write the corrected information, right? So that enhances their editing skills as well. Now, next is Fishbone strategy. This is another cause and effect diagram. The graphic organizer asks your students, they'll be able to write the possible effect. They have to brainstorm different causes. So now different categories show different kinds of causes. Some are due to environmental factors, some are due to man-made factors, some are external factors, some are internal factors. So accordingly, they'll be able to divide the same, right? So next, Fishbone. For the little ones, you can use Fishbone like that also, so that they'll be able to remember. We are talking about Fishbone diagram. This is another format of Fishbone diagram. And we have mentioned here who, what, when, where, why, how, right? This is Fishbone story analysis, right? Fishbone story analysis. Who, right? Whom we are talking about, where, which place we are talking about, what has happened in the story, why that has happened in the story, give the reason, when, talk about the timings and all, how everything has happened. So that is Fishbone story analysis. Now, next is the flow chart. They have to show the flow of the information, the sequencing, and then they will be summarizing the same. Frayer model, we have been doing it earlier too. They have to give the definition of the word, of the term that will be writing in the center in the oval, definition, then sentence, examples, and non-examples, right? I have already shared in examples, they will be writing examples of a particular term, and in non-examples, the words, the examples that are not related to that term, so that they should know what it is and what it is not. Now, moving ahead, inductive reasoning. They have to write the generalization, they have to write the patterns, they have to write the details, right? So that's inductive reasoning. We have been doing in our classes, inductive and deductive, both the type of teaching we have been doing in our classes. Now, justify your answer. Now, if the children they have given you any kind of answer, solution to a problem, you have to ask them how you have come to this conclusion, how you were able to solve it, what were the steps, what did you do first, then what did you do, then how you came to the conclusion. So they'll be able, this is actually called computational thinking, dividing the problem solution into different steps, right? Computational thinking. Now, KWL, know what you know, okay? And you see, I know, I want to know, and I learned. This is KWL. And then KWL is like in a group, what we know, what we want to find out, what we have learned, or maybe what we still want to learn. And there is one more term, KWL plus. That is also being used over there. I mean, you may ask your children how they would like to know. They can add how factor also, KWHL. This kind of chart is used in a particular lesson. You may ask your students initially what they know. Unko kya pata hai, what they know, what they want to know, what are their expectations from this chapter, and what they have learned at the end of the chapter. So KWL. Now moving ahead, this is another graphic organizer with the children. They have to mention the key topic. What is this all about? They have to mention the main ideas. They have to give the essential details. And then what's important to understand about this. See, let me tell you, this is a very good strategy in which they'll be able to conclude the main idea by writing all the essential information, the different ideas that they are learning in the classroom through interaction. Now, summarizing main idea, that is another pictorial presentation. You can use any kind of image to give that kind of graphic organizer to your students. And this is compare and contrast as well, how they are same and how they are different, right? So, and now this is a matrix, compare, contrast several items if they want to compare, contrast at the same time. So they can use that kind of matrix. And this is another strategy where they'll be able to write 5 W's related to a particular topic, particular event, and then they'll be able to conclude. Now, what's the question? What's the essential information? When the children, they are going to solve a particular problem, they have to firstly list down what is the title, what is the question, what's the issue, what's the essential information required, what is not needed, what they have to explain, what they do not have to explain, and what strategy they will use to solve this particular problem. And then they have to check whether my answer makes sense or not, and then can I draw a diagram of the problem or the solution, and then they'll be drawing the same. Next is problem solution organizer. They have to write the problems and the solutions, and then they have to write the main idea in the sentence. And this is RAFT. RAFT, R stands for role of the writer, A is audience, F is format, and T is the topic, right? I have discussed about this in detail in the third part of graphic organizers. You can watch that video for that. And now the RAFT papers, for that, this is another visual presentation. You will be able to give different kinds of layouts to your students. You can draw a picture like this is the role that you are going to play. Then that's your audience. This is the place where you have to mention the given format and give the details, right? And the topic you can talk about, right? This is another kind of RAFT paper. Now, sequence map that we have been using earlier also to explain the students about the sequencing of the story. And then story trails. See, I will be showing you here innovative graphic organizers. Earlier, I've showed you the sequential map. See, I'm going to show you once again. And now that becomes boring to share with the students sometime, then you can show story trails as well in this format with your students. And this is a Venn diagram. Balloons here are there. That is another kind of Venn diagram, advanced. Now, here it is vocabulary. Vocabulary, you see one example is given over here, the word. Picture of the icon. Frustration is the word. Picture or the icon, see, emojis you can share. The line pictures drawn over here, we can easily identify they are frustrated. What's the synonym? Irritate. Antonym, satisfaction. What's the part of speech? Noun. And then you have to give a sentence too. So you can give that kind of format to your students. Vocabulary slide, and that's another one. Different kinds of shapes you can use. Now here it is in front of you is vocabulary organizer. Ask your students, write the vocabulary words, definitions, the parts of speech, synonym, antonym, and the picture or the icon as well. In your classes, English, Hindi language classes, when you ask your students about the new words, new academic vocabulary you introduce in the class, you ask your students to write the words and just the meanings, right? And you do not go ahead with that. You may ask your students about the tip charts also. T is a term. I, what does it indicate? There's a meaning. And then P, picture. But now here, this is the detailed one. They have to write the word, the definition, that is what does it indicate, meaning. They have to write the part of speech also. They have to give the synonym, antonym, and the picture. So just bring that kind of innovation and start doing this practice right now. Don't forget to share your valuable feedback in the comment section below. And now the next one for today is vocabulary organizer. This is a blank one I've just shown you, right? So today we have discussed about 50 more graphic organizers. Do you know that 50? Yes. So in my upcoming video, I'll be coming with 50 more types of graphic organizers. Please make sure you use these graphic organizer in your classes for formative assessments. And if you really like my initiative of sharing my learning with you, do like and share my videos and subscribe to the channel to get notification about the upcoming videos. Thank you. Have a great day, my dear teacher friends.